morning, and thank you for joining us today on a rainy Friday. We hope you are staying warm. I'm Olivia Rios, Director in Operations, Programs and Operations, and today's webinar is Insurance Straight Talk. We will meet insurance industry experts who will share the latest information directly from reliable sources. This organic conversation will bring the true and relatable situations that will bring this topic to light. Learn what steps you can take as a consumer to be engaged with your insurance company and learn practical tips and more. My suggestion is that you don't wait to be in trouble to know more about your policy. But before I turn it over to Ina Alcaraz, our moderator, please share your name, company name, and industry, and where you're coming from so we know who you are and we can connect later. So I also ask that you mute yourself. You can ask or write your questions in the chat box, and those will be answered at the end of the webinar. And then at that point, I will review some of the upcoming events and other programs that you can take advantage at no cost. So no further ado, I'd like to welcome Ina to the program. Ina, good morning.
Good morning, Olivia, and good morning, everyone, and welcome. As Olivia said, LA Latinos webinar, Straight Talk, Insurance Gaps, Wildfires, and What's Changing in California. And I think the big disclaimer as we talk about all of this is to say the insurance industry, as any industry, is fluid and is constantly changing. So input is important, listening is important, being engaged is important. So stay tuned, and you're going to get a lot of really great information. But to kind of get started, to give you a little bit of my background, I've been in the insurance business. I'm a State Farm agent, and I've been in the insurance industry now for 38 years. 16 of them these last years have been as my own agent, but I've been in a variety of capacities. I've been in claims, claim litigation counsel when you get sued. I was in corporate affairs, public affairs here locally in California, and I did it nationally as well. So I've had a really wide variety of experience working with insurance from the corporate side as well as now day to day working with clients. So completely understand the frustrations out there and the fears and just what everybody's feeling. I see it every single day within my agency. But thank you all for joining us for this important and timely discussion. It seems the marketplace, like I said, is going to be changing. And so I think you're going to get a lot of really great information. As Olivia mentioned, we know that you may have questions as the panelists share a little bit about and along the way, but feel free to add them to the chat at any time. Olivia, Carlos, and Belinda are on board, and they're going to be monitoring those, and we'll be sure to try to answer those at the end of the Q&A session. So let's go ahead and get started. As many of you have experienced, California insurance landscape is shifting. Wildfire risk, non-renewals, rising premiums, and new underwriting guidelines are affecting families, homeowners, businesses across the state. As an agency owner, I've seen firsthand the real challenges California's face in today's marketplace. From a bird's eye view within my agency, I hear the concerns, the frustrations, the rising costs, and the confusion every day. Today, our goal is simple: clarity. We're here to break down what's changing, what options exist, and what steps you as an individual can take right now to stay protected. We're honored to have experts from California Department of Insurance, the California Earthquake Authority, and the Insurance Information Institute. We brought together resources, experts, and straight talk to help chamber members in our communities navigate what is changing. I've had the fortune of working with some of these amazing women along the way, and I know that what they're going to bring is their expertise, their wisdom, some candid conversations. And so as we begin, let me go ahead and introduce our amazing panel. Today, we're joined by Julia Juarez, Deputy Commissioner with the California Department of Insurance. Julia brings deep expertise in consumer protections, regulatory updates, and California's evolving property insurance landscape. She works directly with communities and industry partners to help ensure Californians understand their rights, their options, and how current insurance reforms impact everyday homeowners and businesses. Our next panelist is Janet Ruiz, the Director of Strategic Communication for the Insurance Information Institute, or in the insurance industry, commonly known as III. Janet is nationally recognized expert on insurance education, wildfire preparedness, and risk communication. She helps consumers, policymakers, and media understand the complexity of the insurance trends in clear, practical language. She's one of the most trusted voices on what's happening in the California market today. We're also joined by Ana Saucedo. Ana is president of the ACS Group, a successful construction company. And those of you that know Ana, and if you don't know Ana, she works tirelessly to bring value to our LA Latino Chamber members with all of the programming and things that we do here. Ana was also appointed to the California Earthquake Authority Advisory Panel to ensure the CEA is providing the best product on the market. In her role, Ana works with the CEA governing board on important matters that affect Californians: coverage issues, CEA insurance rates, the long-term sustainability of the CEA, availability and affordability of earthquake coverage. But let's go ahead and get started. So Julia, I'd like to start with you. As a representative from the California Department of Insurance, you're at the center of what's happening in the insurance market. It would be great if you could lay out a foundation for today's conversation. Maybe help us understand what the current insurance market in California is about, what's driving the non-renewals, the rising premiums, and the limited availability, and what steps is the department taking to stabilize the market.
Thank you so much, Ina. It's a pleasure to see you and everyone else. Thank you for being here. We at the department are committed to be as informative as we can about what is going on with the industry, but with the market, but also making sure that you are covered and that insurance companies are doing what they're supposed to be doing for you. So I am going to be sharing my screen. I hope that everybody can see that okay. So the Department of Insurance is run, it is of course led by Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara let me make sure that I am sharing for some reason. There we go. We regulate all lines of insurance, and we do, I'm sure you know that we do not sell insurance or promote insurance companies in any way. Our priority is insurance protection. CDI regulates the insurance marketplace to protect consumers by ensuring that it's fair and competitive, that the market is fair and competitive. And we also resolve consumer complaints and investigate and prosecute insurance fraud. Now, we are absolutely sure that, as you deal with all of the different things that you deal with, need you to understand too, the Department of Insurance or the commissioner cannot make an insurance company cannot make or compel an insurance company to sell insurance in any way for anyone. And so that we want to make sure that we are all understanding that to begin with. I don't want to go into too much detail about property insurance. I know that you are familiar, because you are dealing with all of the different insurance products that you have. But commercial insurance is the two main categories: property insurance that covers property that is stolen, damaged, or destroyed. But also the four types of insurance are listed below, and they are the most common property insurance. We also, sorry, for some reason, all of this is not going through all the way. For workers' compensation insurance, it is extremely important that all the businesses understand that workers' compensation is a must for employees who suffer any type of work-related injury or illness. The workers' compensation insurance steps is to provide benefits based on the type of illness or injury that is sustained. And then, of course, workers' compensation is based on a no-fault system, which means that an insured employee does not need to prove that the injury or illness was someone else's fault in order to receive workers' compensation benefits for an on-the-job injury or illness. as a California employer, you are required to provide workers' compensation insurance from a licensed insurance company or through the state compensation insurance fund. But employers may also have the option to self-insure. So your broker or agent can assist you with purchasing workers' compensation from a licensed insurance company and can provide you with more information on the state fund and self-insurance. On what we have learned is that through the entire process of the insurance crisis that we have been suffering since 2018, the wildfires throughout the state have devastated our insurance landscape really throughout the state. And so many of you might have gotten non-renewals by insurance companies. Our homeowners insurance, which is, along with our commercial insurance policies, also really do most of the business. Like 85% of the business is done by about 15 of the top companies in the state. And so they are oversaturated in the state. So of course, that is the reason why so many people, so many insurance companies have limited the number of new business or just any type of work that has been done throughout the state. So that is why you see that there have been just a lot of issues with getting insurance, getting covered. So what the commissioner has done is just work with the sustainable insurance strategy, which basically expands our coverage, making sure that insurance companies will be able to write higher risk homes. And so then this will be about 1.5 million homeowners and areas within the state that are wildfire distressed. So those are the areas that are mostly, by the hills or closer to where we have a lot of wildfire, high wildfire distressed areas. So what we have done is we've worked with all the experts to introduce new climate risk management tools so that people, when we look at the rates, they are able to use catastrophe modeling. Up until now in California, you could only use information from the last 10 years of what has been lost in order for you to make your rates for the future. And so that did not really work anymore, seeing that California has lost so much throughout the wildfires. So we changed, we updated our system so that we can understand how catastrophe modeling works and where we can, where insurance companies can use that to be able to understand where is it that we're going to need more coverage and make that more available. And then, of course, we also work with insurance companies, mostly throughout the United States. We're able to use reinsurance, which is insurance for the insurance companies. So they were able to use that as part of their rate making. And in California, they were not allowed to do that. So now they will be able to do that. However, the way that they will be able to use that is if insurance companies would be able to then insure more people and get people out of the FAIR plan and get more people into the regular market. So that is incentivized by wildfire safety. The way that insurance companies can reward homeowners for making sure that you mitigate your home, that you make your home more safer, is by giving you better rates and then also make more options for coverage available, which has not been available before. Oops, I'm sorry, came back. One of the big things that we have is our people use our California FAIR Plan, which is our insurance of last resort. And that only provides insurance coverage for damage by fire, lightning, or any type of internal explosions that businesses would need. So with the new regulations, so now the FAIR Plan wasn't able to provide services for agribusinesses or outdoor and recreational businesses. Now the FAIR Plan does provide that. And we have increased coverage limits for commercial insurance. Excuse me. So that has expanded to $20 million per structure. When Commissioner Lara came on board, that was only up to 7 million. Now we have that per structure, 20 million per structure, and that goes up to $100 million for the entire business. So that will be that will be available through the department, through the insurance, the sustainable insurance strategy. The continued modernization of the FAIR Plan also includes now HOAs, affordable housing developers, and then larger businesses. So you are going to be able to do that. And of course, we are working to make sure that the FAIR Plan continues to be solvent, that they are able to provide the services that they need for everyone there. All of this is going to be available to insurance companies and to all of you if the insurance companies commit to writing no less than 85% of homes and businesses in these distressed areas and reduce the number of FAIR Plan policies. So that is the expectation, that then we will now have more availability of insurance for homeowners. So where are we? We have been working on this for the last couple of years. So the strategy became effective January 1st. Catastrophe models and all of it, everything that is needed for insurance companies to apply for the new rates was approved in August. And so we are now reviewing all the different rate applications from the insurance companies. We have seen that insurance companies are starting to write again in some of these areas. And because of the catastrophe models are being used, they are going to be then expanding a lot more. We have several insurance companies that we have 8 insurance companies that are already in the queue to get reviewed and accepted. And we're expecting that by the beginning of the year that we will have many more. So we are looking at the availability, increasing that. So Mercury, Allstate, and CSAA were the first ones to respond. And so we are expecting to see a lot more filings later on today. You will hear from others that are going to be doing some work to be doing more work in the state to increase those numbers. For you as a consumer, as a business, and as a homeowner, what can you do to make sure that you are able to get insurance, you're able to keep your insurance, you're able to get discounts on your insurance? All of that is done through our Safer from Wildfires framework. What Commissioner Lara did is he gathered all of the different agencies that deal with wildfires and created very specific things that people can do. Very, very specific things that you can, and so there's 10 things to make sure that you are safer and that insurance companies must take into account to continue to do business or to get you discounts for your insurance. So that is protecting your immediate home or your business, making sure that those are safe. So there are very, very specific things: your roof, your ember resistant zones, all of this kind of stuff. Then looking at your immediate surroundings as well, making sure that there is no vegetation growing right next to your home, those kinds of things, just combustible materials, getting rid of that. But then the last part of that is protecting your entire community. So if you are part of a FireWise community or a fire risk reduction community, you can get a discount as well. What does that mean, and how can you make one? Only 8 homes in a community need to be able to create a FireWise community. And what you do with that is you just basically check on each other, making sure that your homes are safer. And then from there you are also then able to apply for grants to do different things. So you can apply for grants. Some people have gotten new vents for everyone. People have gotten goats to come in and eat all of the different things that, excuse my expression, eat all the different things that are outside that they need to get rid of. So other people, have done chipper programs. So all of those different things, you are able to get those things done. And I just want to share with you really quick here what we have seen in Paradise. In Paradise, we saw that people, for instance, this Carrion Forest, they lost their policy was $4,600, over $4,600. After the wildfires, their renewal was over 21,000. Then they revised it and came down to $9,000. Fair Plan was the next thing that they could do, and that only covered up to 7,400. They were able to then do a lot of the work that we were looking at just to safer from wildfires, and then you're looking at in later on in 2025, their insurance went down to 993. Huge difference, right? And it is because they worked together to put everything there. I want to let you know about the California Safe Homes Act. That is a new bill that the governor just signed, and they were able to get the grant. This is going to be a grant program that will provide about $10,000 for homeowners to be able to do the work that you need. You may need to get a new roof or fix things like that. Those are things that are going to be available there. Also, want to let you know and just remind everyone that Zone Zero is going to be a law that became effective in January 2021. But basically what that is that the immediate surrounding of your home, up to 5 feet of your home, needs to be free of any type of vegetation. So by 2026, they're going to start looking at enforcing that particular law. And then ultimately, I also want you to know that you can contact the Department of Insurance so that we can review your policy with you. You can have experts look at your policy, answer any questions if you need to have any type of question about any type of insurance. That is going to be available for you so that you are able to review that. If you have any type of problem with your insurance company, they are able to contact the insurance company directly on your behalf, and they are able to work on what it is that you might be dealing with. But I want to make sure that you know that you can contact the experts at the department, and they'll be able to work with you and help you in anything that you might need. So apologies that it was a little long, but I want to make sure that you had all the information that you needed. So thank you so much, Sheena.
No, Julia, that was amazing. I think that you laid out a really great foundation. And I think the key takeaways from what I heard you talking about is one, that the department is obviously there to really help educate people, but I really love the actions that the department has taken with the California Safe Homes Act, getting grants out for people to do some of the remediation work that's needed to get their homes in really a position where they're able to shop around insurance and get some good discounts in their homes. And I like Zone Zero. It's something I think insurance companies had been advocating for a really long time, to make sure that we have safe space around our homes so that it's protected. You see, when wildfires happen, you see neighbors going to, getting the hose out and hosing people down. But it's nice when you don't have combustible items that are immediately around your home. So I think everything that the department is doing is amazing. And thank you for sharing that. So our next speaker is Janet, and Janet is here offering sort of an industry perspective. She has a direct line to both the insurers that are assessing the risk and the consumers and what they can do similar to prepare. So from the industry perspective, Janet, what do you see are the factors, practical steps that homeowners and business owners can take to make themselves more insurable and be better prepared? And how can people plan ahead to avoid unexpected gaps or surprises?
Thanks, Ina, and thanks for having me today. I really support the Latino Chamber and think it's so important that you work together and have accomplished so much in the Los Angeles area. So I feel honored to be here today. I want to start by just emphasizing and applauding the California Department of Insurance for the work they have done in the past few years, because this recent commissioner and group that are working now have made more changes than any other Department of Insurance commissioner or group has in the past. And these changes were needed to modernize how we do business, right? We're all doing that in our own businesses. You can't do business like your parents did. You have to do things differently. And there's many better and great tools that you can use. So today I want to focus a little bit on your business insurance and the importance of paying attention to it and setting aside time for it. I've had a small business in my past life, and then I've spent since 1989 in the insurance business. I don't sell insurance, I just help people understand it. But I did work for a couple major insurance companies, State Farm, Fireman's Fund, Chubb, Allianz. And so I've had global, national, but mostly California and the Western US. And that's what my focus is now for the Insurance Information Institute. I handle California. I live in North County, San Diego, and then I work with all the Western states. So, what we see in small business and medium-sized businesses, which I think are most of the sizes of your business in the chamber, are people not taking the time to really look at their insurance. And what I call it is risk management. So you're managing the risks that you face in your business, and they may be different than the business next door, and especially depending on what type of work you're doing. Are you producing products? Are you selling services? Do you have trucks? All those type of things come into play. So risk management, I think, to me, makes more sense than just thinking in terms of insurance. Insurance is the financial aspect of risk management, and you have to have it so that you don't go down when something comes along and you have losses. And I know that sounds so basic, but sometimes we have to boil things down to really think about why it's so important that I take my valuable time as a business owner. I'm stressed out. I got a million things going on to think about risk management. Many businesses also have a risk manager in as an employee, and that's great if you have, the luxury to do that. But if you don't, then it's on you. So I'm going to start with non-renewals. So if your business got non-renewed in the last year or two from one insurance carrier, it's due to all the things that Julia was talking about. But the good news is that the department did work really hard to get this new sustainable insurance strategy in place. It's just taken place since August that it's actually implemented. So we're going to be seeing more and more insurance companies writing new policies and renewals in the next year, 2026. So while we'd like it to happen, within a day, how insurance is an annual renewal. And so you have, it takes time to get these programs really implemented and solid. But what I would say, if you ended up with a California Fair Plan, we are fortunate in California to have that. Not all states do. So if you get non-renewed and there's no insurers writing, you're kind of out of luck. So in California, we are not out of luck. The California Fair Plan takes all comers, and that's great to at least have a product available. However, if you get in the California Fair Plan, keep shopping. And the way I find is easiest to do that is to stay in contact with your agent or brokerage and ask them to keep shopping for you, and then check back in, once every 3 or 4 months and say, did you find me a new policy yet? As you saw in Julia's example, the person that had ended up on the FAIR plan and then did mitigation and was able to get standard insurance got a much better rate. And that can happen quite often. Now, with a small business or a medium-sized business, I'm going to give you some figures of what nationally we have found. And this is a report that was put out from Hickox Insurance. They did a survey of small and medium-sized businesses. 80% of U.S. small businesses lack adequate insurance coverage. They're underinsured, even as revenue growth has actually been accelerating. So the big picture is 62% of small businesses reported increased revenues over 2 years, which was up from 47%. And I always find these statistics interesting and then take them, how does that apply to me? Has mine gone up? Have I been underinsured? That's the takeaway for today. So while the revenue went up 62%, underinsurance, so business owners not having enough insurance for losses that may come their way, has climbed to 77%. And that was an increase. It used to be at 75%. So people are getting more revenue, spending less on insurance. You know that with all the issues we're facing as a nation, if you have supply chains, it may not be the LA wildfires that burnt your building down, but you may have supply chains that depend on places that have hurricanes or wildfires or tornadoes. And that can really slow down your business. You may also be in an area that then has less people coming to your business if you're a restaurant owner or a service provider. And so you're losing income. All these things can be covered by insurance, and you need to have the right amount. And the great news is your insurance agents and brokers are there to help you. They're also your partner in risk management. And I like to put it that way because sometimes in the personal insurance realm, you wouldn't get that type of hands-on help because you don't need it. You figure out the amount you need for your home to rebuild it, for your contents, how much liability do I need, and then, you're pretty much good to go. And I know I'm simplifying that, Ina. But when you have a business, you have employees, you have workers' compensation that you must have, and you'll be so thankful you did. But you have property insurance, you also have liability, but you have such different models of, and risk. You may have high heat in your building. You may have production lines, all these different types of things that your insurance agents and brokers can help you figure out that risk and what you need. So a couple other interesting numbers I found, 60, we did that number, 65% carry general liability. Very important. Your general liability is going to pay for product liability, any types of accidents if customers are coming on your property, defective, products, food poisoning, all these different types of things. So 65% of businesses do carry general liability, but only 49% have property insurance. Now, that doesn't make sense because if you're a brick and mortar place, you need that property. You also, if you're displaced, will be able to rent a similar type of property to keep you going until you get your new property or your old business property back. So there's so many things it covers that are so important. And then 74% misunderstood general liability and thought that it actually did cover their property from fire or flood. So that was a huge number to have that misunderstanding. So I'm just throwing these out. You don't need to be an insurance expert, but you need to work with your insurance expert. I always recommend that you just take the time once a year when your renewal comes up to sit down and really think about insurance because I know how busy you are the rest of the year. But that's the time when you get it in the mail, and also you can shop and compare. And, in commercial insurance, it's much more usual that you would change insurance companies when, one is too expensive or one doesn't offer that type of coverage anymore for the type of business you're doing, all those type of things. And then you can also compare quotes and figure out how to budget it into your finances. But I really encourage you to you've taken the time today, so I know I'm speaking to the choir, but you have a lot of friends and family and other business owners that you're friends with. Really encourage people because this will save your business in the long run. So many businesses go out of business after the first 5 years. And part of it often is because they had these workers' comp problems or, general liability or property damage. When we see riots and people breaking windows and smashing and grabbing and all these kind of things that are going on, those people that have insurance are going to do much better and be able to stay in business much easier. So I think that's all I'm going to say now. There are a lot of good resources with the Small Business Administration. So be sure to go on their website because they have just recently increased the amounts of money that they're giving out for grants and for small business loans. And those are very low interest and really come in handy. So I don't have all the details on that, but I did suggest to the Chamber of Commerce that you have someone from small SBA come on and explain all the amounts of money and the details of those loans and grants. So thank you so much. www.iii.org is the Insurance Information Institute website, and you are welcome to go on. We have a lot of free information for business owners on how to manage their business risk.
Janet, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, amazing information. I love your statistics. 80% of U.S. lack adequate insurance. When I speak to business owners, and I loved your other percentage to say, 65% only carry liability and 49% only carry property insurance. I always like to simplify. So rather than complicate things, I like to simplify it for my clients. And I always say to them, think of insurance, any type of insurance, like you would if you go to a restaurant. Everything is a la carte, and you have to decide what's important and what you want to have. And so whether it's the liability is important, property insurance is important, looking at specialty insurances, depending on the kind of business that you do, if you have employees that drive their vehicles or you have vehicles. So there's so much, and everything is a la carte. So it's really about tailoring insurance to really fit your business, not the other way around. So I love everything that you shared and the resources. Thank you, Janet. So now that we've talked about market conditions and preparations, I'd also like to address, which Janet kind of went into, coverage gaps. Coverage gaps themselves, and we talked a little bit about Fair Plan. And many homeowners are surprised to learn that major risks like earthquakes, flooding, and even certain types of wildfire-related losses may not be fully covered under their standard policy. So Anna is with the California Earthquake Authority, and she has deep insight into these gaps, not only for earthquake, but across all hazards. One of the biggest challenges we're seeing in California right now is the growing gap between coverage of what people think they have and the coverage that people think they have and what they actually have, which sort of Janet alluded to. So Anna, what are you seeing with the CEA, and what are the discussions as it relates to some of these coverage gaps that do exist? Can't hear you.
Yes. So yesterday, it just so happened we had our quarterly board meeting, and it was really interesting because of everything happening. They are now in a mode where they are creating the SB 254 natural catastrophe resilience study, which is due to the governor's desk by April 26th. Reason being is exactly what you said. They're seeing that, never to expect the tragedies and catastrophes of the wildfires, in addition to some of the looting and flooding and everything else that has happened. And they're really worried at the point is, their study needs to show, can we recover everything? Well, we absolutely need to, right? And hearing from all of you who are experts, I am living proof. I am a business owner. I own several properties. We need to really load up on all of our insurances. And to Janet's point, many business owners like ourselves, you don't know until you know. And I love everything that we spoke about in the last couple of days, because I think if anybody, I think there's 29 of us on this call, if you can take anything, one thing, the most important thing is to understand you are your best advocate. Like when you go to the doctor, right? This is the same attitude and willingness you need to have. Right now, as you know, all of our insurances are being renewed. It's so unfortunate if they drop you, but you still need to be insured. And so in the discussions we have, I hope to be the voice. There's about 144 people who get on these board calls. And what's most important is, again, the reality is a reflection of what I see, in the businesses. And to Janet's point, I absolutely knew without knowing, just because of the, just what's going on in the business world, is I had to believe that many of these businesses are not insured the way they should be, or it may be not even being insured. And I wouldn't even say they're lucky. I think they're risk takers, because we're working so hard to get our business to be, contract ready, if not already ready, to increase the opportunities for them to get bigger contracts. If they are not equipped with the proper commercial insurance, the workman's comp and all the other insurances we need for the contracts that we have been able to receive as a construction company, believe me, you will lose out on the opportunity. More importantly, you are really setting yourself up for such a huge risk. And in this world right now, you can't risk to be sued. You can't risk to be so unprepared. As Daryl says, he says this all the time. If you don't prepared, be prepared. If you're, how does he say it? If you are so not prepared, prepare to fail, which is true. You really need to prepare, and you need to understand that we have all these resources at hand, all of us. I mean, I think that you all brought to this discussion a level of expertise that we're just given. And so it's really important, as a business owner, I'm right now working with Get in the Game at the level of partnering with the next step. And so I'm advisors to companies, and I'm so surprised that many of them don't see this as not only a requirement, but more importantly, it's something that they need to understand, that if you want to be in business, you've got to be in business of covering yourself. You've got to know what you don't know, and that's why Olivia is here constantly setting up these webinars to inform you. I think our chamber is the most educated chamber because the resources are so valuable and they're constant, and so I get to be living proof that I hear the stories back of understanding that when you get the contract. I had a really great opportunity to work through the Super Bowl with one of our businesses, and she was going through different, business entities out in LA, and she came to us and we helped her step by step. Well, she is a cleaning service and she did receive a contract for Super Bowl. In a matter of 3 weeks, she need to increase her workforce by 200 people. She called, she said, what do I do? And it was a time right before everything happened. So, you're able to go to some of those different HR companies that can have temporary services, correct? I said, but as a business owner, what you need to do is increase your workman's compensation. You definitely need to train, train, train. And you also need to be able to be committed to being on site 24 hours. I mean, Super Bowl was only a couple of days, right? But those are the kinds of resources, not that I got to live through it, but I needed to be aware of it because what is it? These are the kinds of opportunities you have to remember. These games, I believe, right, Olivia, they're coming to us for only 2 weeks. The work we need to do for those 2 weeks is immense. However, they're leaving and our companies are going to be set for the future. Right? It's not just for those 2 weeks. It's just there's such an urgency, there's such an opportunity. And I have to commend the fact that the three of you really just gave such important information that even I thought, wow, that's really interesting. I was taking notes like, it was very interesting because I'm going to research this. But to this point, as these opportunities come to us, we try and share it with our members. And I guarantee you, when they get to that point, they might not be ready for the opportunity because the risk is they are not seeing this as a needed requirement to be in business. They still see it as a luxury, and they're probably uninsured. So we've got to help them. I think if any of them on the call, this is recorded, and I think we need to share it with everyone. We have over 100 businesses in Listo right now. And I was telling Olivia, I think we need to go back and they need to be required to listen to this segment and then check it off that they did listen because you've given them so much pertinent information. I had a conversation with Monica Rodriguez. I know we're going to show the flyer at the end, but there is a resilience fund and it's a $15,000 grant that we can give any of our businesses that have a brick and mortar. That will go to any kind of security, giving them an opportunity to mitigate anything that they have not been able to, probably replenish in their business. And so she was saying, how do we know? And I said, well, if they were able to qualify for PPP, then they're set because they've got all the paperwork and they're a legit company and they know what it is that's required. There's going to be a report. But more importantly, again, this is another resource as a business owner that we need to make sure that because they've done the work, they put in the work. Some of them, again, Janet, I was having that conversation with you that many of our businesses just still work from contract to contract, and they're not big contracts. We're trying to get them to the next level. And the only way they're going to do that, and I know because as a prime, many of our subcontractors, when Daryl says, well, many of them work under our bond or our insurance, but that's only temporary. Daryl says, the next time we're going to level you up to make sure that you start getting your own. He's been able to take 9 businesses and also make them general contractors and get them to level up in the world of construction. It's so huge right now. But a lot of this is so relevant to this chamber. And so again, I could speak on this forever. There's a lot of need, and more importantly, working under the earthquake, the California Earthquake Authority, we are seeing that it is not just for earthquakes. We're trying to make sure that how can you get prepared, but you can be prepared to the best of your ability for a fire like that. Who would have been, prepared for something like that, And they were saying, can we handle if we were to have a fire and an earthquake? And when I went into reading the annual report for the gas company, I shared with the earthquake committee, I said, what I read in the gas company report is 99% of the fires that happen, during earthquakes is because of the gas lines that break. And so as you know, we're going into a world of hydrogen. They're going to be using those same gas lines. And I'm like, are we ready? Are we equipped for that? So in addition to that, we have a brace and bolt, which goes under, the CEA opportunities. But there is so much out there that we have to just keep constantly flooding our social media with these opportunities. But again, I think, Olivia, to our point, I think we should start measuring the impact we're making. Are these businesses really taking advantage of what is required of them? There is a requirement to be in business, right? And I think as a business owner, I think you need to level up to understanding. Again, we are our best advocates. We need to make sure that we are checking all the boxes. And I had a conversation. Well, there's got to be some kind of checklist that as a chamber, we should hold them to, right? They come to us and, Olivia, can you help me get this, contract? Well, how does your checklist look, right? Have you been able to get everything that you need? But those kinds of things. And as I mentioned, I can run on forever. But again, I want to thank all of you. I think it's so important. And as a business owner, it's my time to advocate on behalf of most of my policies have all been increased. And there's not much you can do about it. But what I can do is I can increase my awareness. What benefit comes with that? What kind of negotiating power do I have as a business owner, as an owner of homes, as far as workman's comp, and what do I need to learn more of? How is there more increased training for our employees? Those kinds of things, And so again, this kind of
I love that, Anna. I love that. One of the things that you're really advocating to businesses is to say, be your best advocate and really be aware of what you're buying. You look at wise expressions, but cheapest is not always the best, and you really
right.
need to figure out what makes sense for you. I wanted to touch on two quick points before, because I know we have limited time. I know Fair Plan has come up a lot, and I know that for many, especially with the availability of policies, a lot of people have had to go to the Fair Plan. But realize that the Fair Plan, as Julia said, it's the last resort. And the reason it's the last resort is that it's not a comprehensive policy. It doesn't include liability, water damage, theft, loss of use, or other critical protections that business owners need or that homeowners need when they're searching for policies and want to be properly covered. Anna's talked about being contract ready. She talked about LA 28 and Super Bowl and some of those things. I think one of the biggest takeaways that as a chamber, we want to make sure that our business owners are ready for business. Our business owners are contract ready. And what does that mean? That means insurance ready. You need to make sure you have all your ducks in a row, that your business is compliant in every way possible to make your business competitive. So I think if we walk away, I'd like to take we don't have a lot of time, so actually see if we can actually get to some of the questions.
Yeah, not to interrupt. So we scheduled the webinar till 11:15. So you do have some time, and I would recommend you share your list.
Perfect. So before we share our list, I want to hear from each of our panelists. And if you could just, let's give one piece of advice that you would leave our businesses with. Julia, if I can start with you.
Thank you very much, Ina. So let me tell you, I'm responding to some of the chat questions here, just to be, a little bit more thorough in some of the information that I shared. But there are three different types of insurance. One of them is, of course, the market that. The admitted market, which is basically all of the insurance companies that do business in the state. We have over 130 insurance companies that do business in the state, that they are admitted through through the Department of Insurance. We review. There is the non-admitted market, which is basically those folks that are not necessarily admitted within the state. However, they do provide services. So in companies like Lloyd's of London, that that they are actually companies that do a lot of business, otherwise. So if you can't find insurance, you could go to a non-admitted market. The difference between both of those is that the insurance that those that are admitted If they go under, it's like the FDIC, that we have a system in place that the department will make sure that you're covered, that your business is covered, if the company goes under. If you do business with a company that is not in the non-admitted market, you don't have that.
The recourse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are so many insurance companies that could be helpful there. And then of course the last is the FAIR plan, which is the insurance of last resort. There is so much information that many times all of this, I know that when I purchased my home, I received a huge booklet, a huge book of information, and I did not read every single piece. And even if I read it, I didn't understand all of it. So understand that you can contact the department and somebody can walk you through the entire thing, or walk you through, explaining what you need, and also just going into very small details. So there are very, important. There's very important information there that you can gather. So overall, know that you can contact the department, our 800 number, and that people will be able to help you navigate, understand, and if you have any type of issue, they'll be able to also talk to the insurance company on your behalf as well. But
Awesome.
that is available. It's free, and please utilize it.
Thank you, Julia. How about you, Janet? Any key takeaways that you'd like to leave our chamber members with?
Yes, thank you. I guess I want to start with seeing the questions in the chat. The business owner's policy, we call it the BOP, is a package policy for small to medium-sized businesses that will include a few coverages that will at least get you started. It's a great package policy. Most agents and brokers sell it. And then my other key advice is make your insurance agent or broker your partner in risk management. As
100%.
you have heard Ina today, wouldn't I love to have her as my insurance agent? I'll call you after, Ina. But seriously, you're not just paying money to get coverage if you have a claim. You're paying money, and you can get advice from your insurance agent and broker. You can also look online for a lot of great advice, III.org, but also, your insurance company that you're insured with, they usually have lots of really like basics on commercial insurance and homeowners and auto. Commercial autos, we didn't talk too much about, but they're a very important part of most businesses.
And it's
And then,
interesting, I have to interrupt that really quick, because
sure,
sometimes when people think about commercial auto, they only think I own a vehicle that I use in the business. But what people forget is that their employees can drive their own cars, and that's still a liability for the business. So very important topic. At some point we'll have to have a
very good
conversation.
point. And this is why you want an insurance agent as your partner in risk management. But regardless, the last thing I wanted to mention, because we didn't talk about it yet, is flood. Flood is not covered in any of your basic policies. If you want flood insurance, you need to get a separate flood policy. There are private insurance companies that sell it, and in California, I've actually found a really few good ones. Or you can go through FEMA. I compare the costs and the coverages and take, what's most affordable. And that's it. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you, Janet. And Anna, any key takeaways that you would want to share with the group?
I would think as we evolve in business as well in our personal life, is the most important thing that I would think is the insurance policies we now have need to bring us most value. We've worked so hard for where we are in our life, and why would we not want to be covered? And so, to Janet's point, and Ina, you need to have a relationship with your insurance agents. It's so important, because they will call you and let's revisit this. And if they don't, then they're going to know that you care enough to do that, and they're going to be responded if they want to keep you as a client, right? So it's important. So I just think, again, be your best advocate.
No, I love that. I love that.
Important. Yes.
I think that what I take away from this session is that the key to the insurance protection is really, one, is awareness. Know what you have. Education, educate yourself on a policy, what it's going to do and the benefits it's going to give you, and really to have that sort of proactive view on your current policy. I mean, at a minimum, everyone should be reviewing their policy at least once a year, because your business changes. Janet had talked about how, I think it was 49% of companies say that their business is increasing, but they're not protecting that additional increase.
Nice.
So it's something that you really have to be aware of. You want to make sure that your policy is keeping up with you, with the changes, with your additions, with all of the things. And that goes for your home, that goes for your auto, that goes for every single policy in your life. And so an insurance policy is something that we all use to really help protect. And so you want to be able to maximize the coverages that's included and make sure that the benefit that you're going to get is exactly what you're thinking you're going to get. So stay informed, stay aware, and absolutely make your insurance carrier, your insurance agent, a complete partner in your risk assessment and your risk management of your business. There is something, if I can have Carlos share, we were putting a piece together for the chamber, and this is part of the resources that we want to be able to provide to chamber members, is that we want your business to thrive, we want your business to grow, and we want you to be contract ready. And so I think being contract ready means being insurance ready. That's part of it. Carlos, can you pull up the document and maybe make it a little bit bigger? I got to put on my glasses here so I can see. So let's take a look at, what are some of the things? I mean, you want to look at your core business insurance requirements. Do you have the general liability, the workers' compensation, which is required? It isn't an option. If you have employees, you're required. And sometimes, even if you don't have employees, contracts will require you to carry it. And so you can get that. And Julia talked about the state fund, and you can go to a self-employed workers' comp policy. You can get that through them. Having commercial auto limits, sometimes it's not because you're going to be driving in the scope of a contract. To go onto the premises for your contract, they want you to have liability, and 500,000 is almost not unheard of. Everyone pretty much is requiring $1 million, and you're starting to see higher limits now. Professional liability for consultants or services. So you really have to look at your core business. Looking at your property and operations coverage, just like Janet talked about the BOP, the business property, business operations policy, but you can have just business personal property, business interruption. We saw with the wildfires, with riots and things that can happen, your business can be out of business, and you can have business interruption coverage for those situations. If you're in a disaster and high risk coverage, taking a look at those items that affect you. We talked about earthquake, but there is flood, as Janet had mentioned, and wildfires. Looking at for contracts, oftentimes they're going to require umbrella policies, waiver subrogations, primary and non-contributory warding. Oh my goodness, what does all this mean? This is all languaging that contracts are going to require, and it's important that you're working with somebody that is able to produce a certificate of insurance, a COI, within 24 to 48 hours, because sometimes that makes a difference, you getting a contract or not. And then additional requirements that you need to have ready. And Anna talked about, being ready for grants and other things. Well, you need to have an updated W-9, your business license and entity documents in place, your EIN and workers' comp policy, proof of mitigation, especially if you need retrofits. I know in some of the downtown LA area, there was a lot of combustible buildings. So in some, there's not a lot that you can do. So just being aware of what are some mitigation efforts that you can take. And obviously red flags, lapsed or expired policies. obviously you want to be reviewing them. This is a big thing, business name matching the insurance. Sometimes you may have a DBA, but sometimes if you have an LLC or a corporation and the name isn't exactly the same on your business policy, they may not accept it. So you want to make sure that everything is current and accurate. Insufficient policy limits, making sure that you've got the right ones, the proper endorsements, and just a quick contract ready. You want to have at a minimum $1 million of liability. That's generally what they require, 1 million with a $2 million aggregate. Workers' comp, same thing. Commercial auto, umbrellas. We didn't put on here, but bonding. Bonding is sometimes certain contracts require that. So what we want to do at the chamber is really just help you prepare. However, we can be of service to you. We want you to succeed. We want you to thrive. And so just like we said to you, make your insurance partner, your insurance agent, your partner. Well, we as the chamber want to be your partner in success. So know that we're here, we're a trusted ally, and we want to see that success. So maybe we have a little bit of time. Let's see if we can maybe get to some of the questions in the chat that may not have been addressed.
Yeah, let me review the chat real quickly. For the most part, they were addressed.
Perfect.
There were questions that Julia was able to provide, but let me scan real quickly. I did ask folks to kind of put their name and where, their company organization so that they could, connect with one another. And then let me see. Let's see. Question: will the Department of Insurance explain coverage and provide a top sheet that summarizes what is insured and eliminate the legal jargon? I mean, you have to really put disclaimers on everything because everything does change. And then Abigail did mention, how much insurance does one need? Is there a formula? And I think Ina, you can probably help that.
It really is dependent on what your needs are. For standard contracts, most companies will require $1 million of general liability with a $2 million aggregate. However, for your operations, how much content do you have within your business? If my building were to completely set ablaze and everything gone, how much am I going to need to put all of my equipment back and get my business up and running? So oftentimes what I see with clients is that, they want to underestimate how much they have because they feel like the policy is going to be higher, which it may be. But then when the loss happens, they want to know they have enough coverage. So you kind of have to balance the two statements. It really is dependent. There is no magic formula. We have to look at every business as unique as that person is. What do you have? What content? What's your exposure? What are the things that we need to protect? Business interrupted. I think Janet mentioned something about contingent businesses. So say, for example, I do business and my supplier is in Atlanta. Well, Atlanta had a flooding or freezing or something happened there. So now they can't get me my products. That means I can't do business. Mm-hmm. That's a protection that you can have in case your supplier can't get you what you need. So every business is unique. For businesses that do anything with food, contamination, poisoning. So every policy is going to be as unique as the business is. So there is no formula. What there is a conversation. What are the things that we need to protect?
And then that kind of adds to it. So as your business evolves, as your services evolves, your policy should keep up with it, correct?
100%. 100%.
Alrighty. Thank you. And then, so that addresses that question. And then Julia did share with David that she'll be sharing the PowerPoint presentation. And Julia, can you send that over to us and we'll be
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we'll share it in our thank you email along with the information that's in the chat, such as the III website, the website for, and I guess the QR code for the California insurance, as well as Ina. So I know we're pressed for time because we have a couple more things. Let's see.
If I can do just one more thing, and I'll let you take over. Just Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Anna. You guys were amazing. Wonderful takeaways, wonderful information, and just thank you for taking your time to really help educate our chamber on important matters with related to insurance.
And Ina, back to you. You
Back
did
to
an
you.
amazing job. Wow.
Yeah, and I just want to share, I did share a one pager that just gives you the, all the detailed information in a condensed manner, because I understand that there are a lot of things that people need to know more about and so want clarity. So that gives you a lot more clarity there. Along with, I also put another link for a more detailed brochure if you have the time that you want to go into a lot more detail. But just know that all of these resources are available. And if you just want to call someone and talk to someone that can walk you through it, call the department and we'll just walk you through it and answer any questions that you may have then.
Yeah, we'll make certain to add those links to it so everyone has the information. So on that note, I'd like to just, we're at 12:12. We have a call to 11:15. So again, great conversation. Thank you everyone for your expertise and hope that everyone went away with and learned some great information. So excuse me. Thank you, Julia, Janet, Anna, and Ina for your participation. There's great takeaways such as the grant AB 3074, how insurance business have evolved. So keep up with your policies. Make sure to review your policy every single year so you make sure that the policy grows with your business and level up in some cases. There's going to be things that you purchase and don't remember. Keep those receipts. Everything is important. Everything should be covered at the time of replacement. So again, make your appointment, and the best advocate is yourself because only you know what you need. And then,
Olivia, and one other thing, can we get that information on BOP? I've never heard of that, and that would be a good starting point for some of our businesses. From Janet to Janet Fallal. I've never heard about that, Olivia, but that's a good starting point for some of the businesses.
mhm.
I'll send over an explanation of them, of the
Excellent.
BOP. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you everyone for being with us, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.